Willie Crockett is an artist. He'll tell you he's only known within a 30-mile radius of his adopted hometown on Hancock, Virginia. Don't you believe it? Willie Crockett is known wherever a wild duck locks his wings for a landing, a Canada goose belts out his haunting refrain, and flying salt spray drenches the gunnels of a Chesapeake Bay gunning skiff.
Wildlife, boats, love to do boats, marsh scenes, those things particularly. I'm not very affluent, but I get up when I want, go to bed when I want, do precisely what I want at least 80% of the time, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Willie Crockett, to say the least, has had a varied life. From a boyhood on his native Tangier Island where he hunted ducks with a passion, to becoming a minister of the gospel, to a hippie, and now a well-known artist.
I consider it a growth, really. I went out to convert the hippies converted me pretty much, I guess you might say, but the hippie philosophy doesn't work very well, it never did for that matter, but I learned a lot from them, and I learned a lot from that experience.
Willie's art skills were honed from studying on an individual basis with a half-dozen private tutors over a like number of years. It was by design, not by accident.
In my life, I came to the conclusion that I was either going to have to join the rat race and work my butt off, or I was either going to learn a skill and enjoy life.
Learn a skill he did, and enjoy life he does.
I like my freedom. I like to be able to go where I want, when I want, and so far I've been lucky. I pulled it off.
Willie Crockett, a talented artist. He remains today as he was in the days of his youth on Tangier Island, unpretentious and refreshing. Scorchy Taws, one in our Delmarvelous land, for WBOC News. It's been 10 years since we last visited with the Hancock's Willie Crockett, artist superb and our friend and relative. Not blood relative, you gotta understand, but marshland kin. That runs deep too, 'cause Willie was born and raised on Tangier Island. So we headed for an Hancock with Willie's words of a decade ago still fresh in our mind.
I'm not very affluent, but I get up when I want, go to bed when I want, do precisely what I want at least 80% of the time, and there's a lot to be said for that.
Has anything changed in those past 10 years?
Not really. I paint just about the same thing. I paint a lot of seascapes and ducks and boats and birds, and just like I always did. A little less hair, gray beard. My beard was black then, pretty much, I imagine. And I'm getting old and decrepit. And I'm a better artist now. That's one thing better. I don't know. I'm slower, but I have just as much fun as I did.
As he whistles while he works, Willie may be thinking of, surprise, surprise, the book he is writing.
It's a collection of stories that I've collected from the time I was a child on Tangier, and all the stories and quotes and anecdotes and that I've collected, and it'll be a lot of fun.
And even more of a surprise is poetry. One poem, Minnow Ditches, will be the title of his book and is a melancholy reflection of his youth on Tangier Island.
I saw myself in minnow ditches on the surface of the tide, looking down to someone who was looking up at me. And I guess I'll always be there. No matter what success or failure face may bring, I'll be linked to those green waters, to a sunburned face, and the salty beginnings of my youth.
Yeah, there's only one Willie, unpretentious, witty, and carefree. A man who amuses himself by writing poetry, working on a book, and going fishing or hunting at any given moment the spirit moves him, and yes, still paints as pretty a picture as just about anyone. We found Willie Crockett had changed little in 10 years.
I get up when I want and go to bed when I want, and I do what I want most of the time.
This is right where we came in a decade ago. Scorchy Taws, wandering our Delmarvelous land for WBOC News. Willie Crockett is an artist. He'll tell you he's only known within a 30-mile radius of
When the
his
great
adopted
Scorchy
hometown.
Taws first interviewed Willie Crockett, Ronald Reagan was the president, and gas cost a little bit more than $1 a gallon. A lot has changed since then, but not Willie.
I'm not very affluent, but I get up when I want, go to bed when I want, do precisely what I want at least 80% of the time, and there's a lot to be said for that.
It's been 10 years since we last visited with the Hancock's Willie Crockett.
10 years later, Scorchy went back to Willie's studio, and in that story he revealed what it was that so attracted him to that particular artist's work.
Artist superb and our friend and relative. Not blood relative, you gotta understand, but marshland kin. That runs deep too.
I was with Scorchy that day in 1995, and I saw for myself the profound respect these two great artists had for one another. They were truly cut from the same cloth.
He was fantastic. He was first class. I always regarded him as one of the very best.
That's cool. Well, let me take it up to him.
14 years after that, we visited Willie once again.
Certainly. Come right over here. Dad, WBOC is here.
You're not hard to impress up there, are you?
Willie's still painting and cracking jokes and holding court and wrestling with the demons only artists know.
I always have a sort of a fight going on with a picture. The picture's always telling me I can't do this, and I'm always telling them that I can.
And that's not unlike Willie's relationship with the outside world. He's always known that he was a different kind of person.
Most of the people are a lot better than I am. They're more predictable, more. They live good lives and they're good people, and sometimes I wish I could. No, I really don't. I like being what I'm doing.
What Willie likes to do most of all is to paint.
I never get tired of painting, and I love painting.
Well, yeah, I am tickled to death. Thank you very much.
Over the years, Willie's work has become a must-have for any serious collector of Delmarva art, and his Onancock Gallery is a busy place. Maybe the only place on Delmarva where you can not only buy a painting of a landscape, but the landscape itself, from the real estate company his wife runs next door.
We all have to sell a certain amount of our time to make ends meet, but the way I measure success is how much I have to sell and how much I can keep for myself.
Willie may have sold some of his time over the years, but he's never sold himself, nor has he strayed very far from a poem he wrote as a young man and recited to Scorchy all those years ago.
I saw myself in minnow ditches on the surface of the tide, looking down to someone who was looking up at me. And I guess I'll always be there. No matter what success or failure face may bring, I'll be linked to those green waters, to a sunburned face and the salty beginnings of my youth. I was so trusting to the ebbing tide, a forever child looking to see if my reflection would predict some future on the flood. Now I'm older, but still reaching for myself, and the broken image of my face keeps smiling through the ebbing and the flowing of the years. Narcissus child always laughing, yet never mocking me. We've always been together, always reaching for each other, the forever child and me.
In Onancock, Virginia, this is Charles Paparella for WBOC News.
You might have some driftwood out here.